What is good, world? You have tuned in to another episode of the Double Edge Factor. I am your host, Rob Manuel, and peace and blessings unto you. Before we get going, be sure to like, follow, and hit that subscribe button to never miss another episode. Or you can find the Double Edge Factor on linktree.com, where you will have access to all of our social media outlets. Today, I have a simple yet profound question. What do we owe our children? It seems like such a straightforward question on the surface. We provide food, shelter, education, the basics, right? But when we really sit with this question, it unfolds into something more complex and far-reaching. Because what we owe our children isn't just about material things or even emotional support. It's about the values we embody and the legacy we create through our lived examples. Let's start with the fundamentals, okay? Children need their basic physical needs met: food, clean water, shelter, healthcare, and protection from harm. This seems obvious, yet globally, millions of children still lack these basics. Even in wealthy nations, far too many children experience food insecurity or inadequate health care. But physical safety that's just the beginning. Emotional security is equally essential. Children need to know they are loved unconditionally, that they have a secure base from which to explore the world. The attachment relationships they form in early childhood quite literally shape their developing brains and influence their ability to form healthy relationships throughout life. As a young teen myself, I started to notice families where the parents were always physically present, but emotionally distant. Their child had everything materially: the best clothes, the latest toys, excellent schooling, but struggled with anxiety and had a difficult time connecting with others. What was missing wasn't stuff, but the deep emotional security that comes from consistent, attuned caregiving. Think about this for a moment. The way we respond to our children's needs in their earliest years doesn't just affect their childhood. It influences how and what they become as an adults, how they'll parent their own children, or even affects their physical health outcome decades later in life. That's pretty profound. Education is yet another clear obligation we have to our next generation. Not just formal schooling, though that's important, but education in its broadest sense, helping children develop their critical skills, creativity, and emotional intelligence, and the ability to navigate complexity. We owe our children the opportunity to discover and develop their unique gifts and passions. This means exposing them to diverse experiences, ideas, and possibilities. It means delivering in their potential and supporting them as they find their own path, even when the path differs from what we might have imagined they'd do. What comes to mind for me is an example of a young man whose parents were both doctors. Now, his parents assumed that he would just follow in their footsteps. But when he discovered his passion for architecture instead, of course, there was initial pushback, but eventually they recognized that their deeper obligation wasn't to create a mini version of themselves, but to support their son in becoming fully himself. So fast forward today, he designs healthcare facilities that promote healing through thoughtful spaces, bringing together his parents' world of medicine with his own architectural vision in a way that none of us could have even possibly imagined. Children also need moral guidance, not rigid in doctrine, but thoughtful introduction to ethical practices or principles, and the space to develop their own moral compass. They need stories that connect them to something larger than themselves. Whether it's religious traditions, cultural heritage, or simply the long human story of which they are now a part of. These narratives provide context and meaning that help children make a sense of their experiences and find their place in this world. I remember a grandfather who made it a point to share his stories from his childhood during family dinners. These weren't just entertaining anecdotes, although they could be, but they were vehicles for transmitting values about perseverance, honesty, and caring for community. His grandchildren, they just didn't inherit his genetic material, they inherit a moral framework and a cultural wisdom that continues to guide them long after his passing. And we will be right back. Today's show is brought to you by Polished Custom Builders, where they specialize in building your dream into a reality through custom home building, renovations, and interior design. Check them out at polishedcustombuilders.com, where the most beautiful house in the world is the one that you build yourself. And we are back. Of course, there's a delicate balance here. We owe our children guidance, but we also owe them the freedom to become themselves. We need to protect them, but we also need to prepare them for independence. We want to shield them from unnecessary suffering, but also help them develop the resilience to face life's inevitable changes. Finding this balance is not easy. It's not easy at all, but it requires constant reflection, adjustment, and humility. It means acknowledging that we don't have all the answers and that we will make mistakes along the way. I recall a mother who shared with me how she initially tried to protect her son from every disappointment. When he wasn't invited to a birthday party, she called the other parent to intervene. When he struggled in school with a homework assignment, she would practically do the homework for him. She realized over time that while her intentions were good, she was actually preventing him from developing the resilience and problem-solving skills he needed in life. Her greatest gift to him ultimately wasn't protection from difficulty, but rather standing by supportively as he learned to navigate through challenges himself. So she shifted from solving his problems to coaching him through his problems and helping him solve them. Just another profound example of how our roles evolve as our children grow. But perhaps the most profound thing we owe our children is our example. Children learn not primarily from what we tell them, but from what they see us do. They absorb how we treat others, how we handle challenges, how we practice our values in daily life. Let me share a story that illustrates this. There's a teacher by the name of Marcus. He was driving his daughter, his 10-year-old daughter, to school one day when they witnessed a minor fender bender. No one was hurt, but the driver who caused the accident started to drive away. So without hesitation, Marcus pulled over safely, called out to the other driver who was trying to leave, and offered to be a witness for the other driver. So fast forward a little while later, his daughter asks why he had gotten involved when he could have just easily continued on his way. He explained that about, his civic responsibility and doing the right thing, even when it's inconvenient. So fast forward 3 years later, when his daughter found a wallet in the mall, she insisted on tracking down the owner rather just turning it in to the lost and found. So when Marcus asked her, why did you do that? She said, you remember that car accident? You taught me we don't just do the easy thing, we do the right thing. That's a powerful example right there. His daughter didn't learn from integrity from a lecture. She learned it by watching her father live with integrity in an ordinary moment. When we model compassion by how we treat the cashier having a bad day, when we demonstrate perseverance by continuing to show up despite setbacks, when we display honesty by admitting our mistakes and making amends, these everyday actions speak volumes. So we should be setting examples of emotional regulation, which is showing children how to acknowledge their feelings without even feeling controlled by those emotional actions. Conflict resolution, demonstrating how to disagree respectfully and work towards an understanding. Continuous learning, modeling curiosity and growth rather than certainty and fixedness. Self-care and boundaries, showing that care of oneself isn't selfish, but actually necessary. Gratitude and perseverance, or gratitude and presence. Appreciating what we have rather than always striving for more. Courage to stand up for what's right, even when it's difficult and unpopular. And forgiveness, both ourselves and others. Our children are watching us. They're watching how we respond when we're wrong, how we handle disappointment, how we celebrate joy. They notice whether our actions align with our stated values. They see the gap between what we say and what we do. So perhaps the most important question isn't what we owe our children, but who we're becoming in their presence. What kind of life are we modeling for them? What examples are we setting through our daily choices? Does our audio match our video? Because in the end, our lives speak far louder than our words. We owe our children many things: safety, opportunity, moral guidance. But above all, we owe them our own authentic struggles to live well, to grow, to become better. We owe them the gift of seeing what it's like to be fully human, with all of our flaws and our failures. And yes, but also our capacity to love, to grow, and for redemption. That, I believe, is the greatest inheritance we can offer. This is Rob Manuel with the Double Edge Factor, and it would mean the world to me if you would share this episode with just one person. And hey, let's be more than podcast friends. Hit that subscribe button to never miss another episode, or you can find the Double Edge Factor where you can join that email list and have access to all of our social media outlets. I will leave you with this, my friends. Be intentional with your words, thoughts, and actions, and always find a way to be a blessing to someone else today.